After a long, tedious workday, many people find solace in hopping onto the couch and watching something that is lazy and stimulating, dramatic in a way that their lives can never ever be, and possibly makes them feel better about themselves. For many people, this is definitely reality shows. In the past decades, reality shows have been garnering so much attention by producers for their potential of low expenses but high profit margin. Now, what is considered a reality show? Reality shows are TV shows where people are being filmed every day for the sake of merely being amusing and entertaining to an audience. They're not scripted, but they can be very supervised throughout the production process. Some of the key questions are: what are the effects of reality shows on the audience and the stars? Who is attracted to them and why? And should policies put into place to protect the stars? And what should they be? We will dig all to those questions. Just stay tuned. Reality shows have their positive and negative effects on their stars and audience. As far as positives go, it provided many stars with a lifelong career, financial security, and a life of luxury that may not have been possible otherwise for them. Also, shows like American Idol and X Factor gave many stars like Carrie Underwood and One Direction a chance for their talent to be unleashed to the world. In addition, other than being a legitimate source for the audience for entertainment, some experts argue that it can help some viewers evaluate and explore their own values. For example, a professor at Pepperdine University says that while watching those shows, we can ask ourselves, and I quote him, "What do I enjoy about this show and what emotions does it elicit?" Another question, he says, we can ask ourselves is, what values do I embrace in my life that are either abided or abandoned in this show? But there's a twist to it. Some argue that those positive outcomes come with hefty costs. One point of view says that reality shows can incur serious psychological damage on its stars. Because of the increased scrutiny and being filmed all day and every day, their potential of receiving criticism is high, and that can be quite distressing. A renowned psychologist, Nadine Caslow, said to ABC News, "It can even be a risk factor for suicide." She said, and I quote, "When people feel very publicly shamed and humiliated, that's a risk factor for suicide." She also adds that people, the media and the public, aren't always so nice about them either. You can go from being a star and really famous to being either a nobody or a villain. According to a report done by Metro newspaper, there has been a staggering 38 suicide deaths from participants of reality shows, including stars from The Bachelor, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, among others. Now, as far as their effects on the audience, one impact of watching reality TV shows might be increase in body image issues. For example, one study done by Southwest London found that 50% of the participants found that watching reality TV shows affected their body image negatively. Also, there has been 2 studies done that found a correlation between watching reality TV shows and increase in viewers' narcissism and aggression tendencies. You listen to that? What do you make of it?
Who is truly attracted to these reality shows? According to an article in Today, women are twice as likely as men to watch reality shows. Over time, women have come to see the people portrayed on the screens as their own friends. They identify with their struggles and their triumphs. A recent article in Psychology Today states, "The sense of having a personal relationship is amplified by the reality label, even though we are well aware that the reality piece is often greatly exaggerated." Further, women are known to take risks less frequently than men because of the differences in their strengths of the right and left frontal lobe rhythms, which leads to Dr. Carol Lieberman, a reality TV consultant, explaining, "We don't actually have to risk our heart or our reputation when we vicariously live through the experiences of the reality show participants. While on the flip side, when we looked into why men stray away from reality TV, Paul Kessel, a retired citizen, states, "Reality is relative. What you see is carefully edited, if not scripted. Why would I want to keep up with the Kardashians? They have no relevance to me or my life." R. Scott Griffin, the senior director at Rivian, shares this belief and says, "When it comes to reality television, it's a hard no from me." Why? Simple. I generally watch television for a momentary escape from reality. The last thing I want to do is watch someone else's reality, particularly if that reality is fraught with distress, drama, and conflict. It is clear that men are not keen on viewing anyone else's reality when they have their own stuff to deal with, whereas women seem to gravitate towards the dramatic element of other people's interesting and different lives. Unlike mystery and thriller shows, reality shows don't require your undivided attention to enjoy them. For women, the ability to do other things while watching television may be a part of the appeal, according to a recent study in the Journal of Biomedical Science.
According to Oxford Languages, a job is described as, quote, a task or piece of work, especially one that is paid, end quote. Being on a TV show means being paid, therefore it qualifies as a job. So when children are on reality shows, they theoretically participate in child labor. So should toddlers dressing up in tiaras and dancing at dance competitions in Pittsburgh have the same protections as those working on farms or in commercial jobs? Furthermore, whose job is it to protect these kids? Their parents, producers, or the government? Children featured on reality TV currently are not protected by either performer laws or child labor laws. While they obviously appear on television, they are not protected by the same laws as traditional child actors. Despite the fact that children on reality TV are arguably more subject to exploitation, the government seems not to feel an obligation to protect them. This means that the protection of these kids ends up falling to the producers and the children's parents. So how does this work in practice? Is there even a need for government protection? An example of this system working is the show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. The show follows the Kardashian family, matriarch Kris Jenner, children Kim, Kourtney, and Khloe Kardashian, and Kylie and Kendall Jenner, and crucially, the 11 grandchildren, who vary in age from 13 years old to just a few months old. The grandchildren only appear briefly on the show, and their involvement, or lack thereof, is completely left to the discretion of their parents. The Kardashians have a great amount of power, as they are not only the stars of the show, but Kim, Khloe, Kourtney, and Kris all actively act as executive producers of the show. One example of children who were arguably exploited are the kids featured on the Lifetime show Dance Moms, including Maddie Ziegler. Dance Moms aired from July 2011 to September of 2019. The show was based around young girls in the dance industry who were very much verbally abused by their coach, Abby Lee Miller, all for television. These girls went through so much trauma and stress as young women and were exploited for profit, which ended with most of the original cast leaving the show due to the trauma they suffered. Someone who does not speak much about their time on the show is Mackenzie Ziegler, Maddie's younger sister. This is because of just how much she was mistreated. Mackenzie left the show very early on. She was only 7 years old when the show first premiered and 11 when she left. She, in a way, embodies our question. How can children be more protected in the industry and have more of a say as to what goes on in these shows?
Also, on the topic of income, as child reality stars do not have the same protections as child actors, the money they bring in is not placed under those protections. For child actors in California, they are protected under the Coogan Act, which states that it is now necessary for a minimum of 15% of the child actor's income to be placed in a trust fund, no longer at the discretion of a judge. Additionally, that 15% must come from the child's gross income and not their net income, protecting it from being reduced by management or secretarial fees. Finally, the income earned by a child actor is legally recognized as the child actor's property. It is no longer property of their parent or their guardian. Of course, children appearing on reality television are not covered by this legislation, as they are not considered actors, but rather child performers. Thus, it once again falls on the parents to protect their kids and their money. So currently, the protection of children featured on reality TV is left to the discretion of their parents and the producers. In some situations, this seems sufficient. However, all children appearing on television would likely benefit from having the same protection as child actors. Furthermore, it could also be argued that reality television children should have greater protection, as they are sharing their real lives and personal lives with the television audience. Switching over to another policy topic that needs to be talked about on reality TV, the privacy of these actors in these shows. Are there any laws in place to protect these actors if they aren't children? This has been the topic of discussion on the show Real Housewives. In one of the episodes of Real Housewives of Atlanta, one of the cast members asked the crew to leave the area and stop filming so they can have a fun girls' night. The camera crew then agrees and they leave the area. But there are hidden cameras in the house along with audio recorders. The performers on the show do their best to cover up the hidden cameras, but they cannot do anything to stop the audio recorders. They are also not aware that these audio recorders were recording that night, and one of the women decided to have a man over. This woman and that man had intimate relations that night and were both unaware that their audio is being recorded. It was later published in a television episode without either of them knowing that their own privacy was breached. While reading the story, I wondered, is there any laws in place or anything you can do to protect these actors' privacy? And I came across an article titled, quote, "Do not sign that contract. Why privacy is impossible on reality TV," end quote, by Shyam Shwamas. And this article speaks about how when these stars sign these contracts for being on these shows, they are relinquished to their own privacy. The camera crew can record audio and video whenever they need to, except for when these men and women are not TV appropriate. Of course, meaning going to the bathroom, etc. But this does not discount for the sexual relations, specifically with audio. And even some reality TV shows allow audio recording in the shower. Are there any laws that prevent the production managers and producers from being able to pull one over on these actors? Now, as teenage girls who do love some of these shows, we have to say there are pros and cons to reality TV. They bring joy and laughter to many people, and family-focused reality TV shows can bring that sense of family to those who don't have it. These shows are truly a guilty pleasure that can generate a lot of buzz on social media. But along with that comes the negatives of reality TV shows, specifically for those featured on them. It can bring unwanted trauma to both the kids and adults on these programs. These actors' privacy is stripped from them, and they are harshly criticized all over mainstream and social media. There are some laws protecting these young children, but can we do more to protect adults and make them feel comfortable in their environment? Overall, reality TV is watched and adored by many, but looking deeper into this controversial topic, we can see so many pros and cons to child performers and even adult actors.